Gun violence occurs far too often in Milwaukee. Last year, there were 142 homicides, 10 more than the previous year. And while the number dropped, there were still over 500 non-fatal shootings in the city last year. Gun violence can create fear of guns, and that complicates any discussion of gun safety as a part of gun violence prevention. But the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is taking on that challenge with a community discussion on gun safety on March 7th. Joining us to talk more about that event is James Causey, an award-winning Journal-Sentinel columnist and one of the moderators for the event. Thanks so much for joining us, James.
Thanks for having me, Denise.
This is really a unique event and a unique approach. The Journal-Sentinel is going to bring together a survivor of gun violence with gun owners. Why did the paper decide to take this particular approach to the discussion of gun safety?
Well, like you said, this is a different approach to looking at gun violence because this is what the public asked us for. We went around to John Dietrich and I, who is a reporter who studied gun violence. We went around to different agencies and groups, and we wanted to talk to them about gun violence and what could be done. And they told us that this is the type of event that they wanted. A lot of them are gun owners, and they just they felt like they had to live in silos, like they couldn't talk about the fact that they were gun owners. And they wanted to know how they could better store their guns, proper technique for guns. They wanted to know where they could go for training to fire their guns. They wanted more information about guns, and they wanted a different message than just put the guns down, which has been a long time message in this city and across this country. Because chances are you will probably come across, or your children will come across, a gun in their lifetime. So we wanted to give the public a chance to have this open discussion and to also not be afraid to talk about ways that they could be safe with guns other than a standard message about gun safety.
It's pretty clear we don't talk enough about gun safety. One statistic that always amazes me is that 60% of the guns that are stolen in our city were stolen from cars. So clearly people are not practicing or just perhaps not aware of how critical gun safety is to avoid the commission of crimes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So we have a problem in the city. We have a lot of cars that are stolen. We have a lot of people that keep their guns in their cars. So when you put those two things together, you create this huge problem in the city. So you have a lot of young people who steal guns, who steal cars, who come across these guns, and they use these guns for other crimes. So what do we do about that? How do we have conversations about where you should keep your gun? You shouldn't keep your gun under the front seat of your car for sure, but people need to understand that there's other ways to be safe with your gun.
So there really is going to be not just a discussion, but a sharing of information about what people can do and what some of the best practices are around securing your weapon and being a responsible gun owner.
Exactly. So we have a dynamic panel. We have Reverend Simmons, who was a victim of gun violence. He was an Uber driver who was robbed by two young teens who shot him while he was giving them a ride during his Uber duties, and they stole his vehicle. This guy is someone who has been a mentor to young people, who said that, he almost died at the hands of a young person. Even though this happened to him, he's not anti-gun. However, his story is pretty powerful. And on the other hand, we have someone on the panel named Eddie Silas, who runs Prolific Arms, a gun store in Wisconsin, who said a gun saved his life because he actually had to use a gun to protect himself. And so we had this clash of this conversation about guns that we often run into. Should you have a gun? Should you not have a gun? And so the fact that we could bring people like this together in a forum and have that discussion is important, because I think we could come together on things that we could agree on. We could agree that bad people should not have guns, and we could also agree that guns should not be left in your car. They shouldn't be just loose in your house so a kid could come across it as well. So we want to talk about things that we could come to agreement on, but also talk about some disagreements that we do have about guns.
But the real point is starting somewhere, right? And beginning to have this discussion on something which everyone can agree. Gun owners or people who may not be gun owners, everybody wants guns to be safely stored.
Yeah, so one thing that Michelle Bryant and Homer Blow, who are two panelists who will be at this event, also said is that there's a different conversation about guns depending on your race. You know, for instance, there are no black gun stores in the city, yet we have a gun violence problem in our city. So, you know, their emphasis is on proper training, proper storage, how to, you know, you should go to the range and know how to fire your weapon. These are conversations that we really don't have enough of in our city. But if you go out in the burbs, they have those kind of conversations all the time. So how can we meet in the middle some kind of way and come to some kind of agreement on that? As a gun owner myself, I have been to the range and I grew up around guns. My grandfather was a gun owner and my father was a gun owner too. And they taught me the responsibility of gun ownership.
Is that something that we really hope will come out of this discussion? How we talk about teaching young people about how to safely handle guns, what responsible gun ownership looks like.
Right. Because, you know, it's one of those things that we have enough guns to arm every man, woman, and child in the United States. So chances are your child may come across a gun. So you want them to have the right mentality once they see a gun. What should they do once they see it? And this whole thing that there's bravado out there that a lot of people use a gun to point crazy and do all these different crimes with. We need to get past that and really teach responsible gun ownership because there are a lot of guns out there and we need to have more responsible gun owners out there.
What's the next step after this community discussion? What do you hope will happen?
Well, I hope it sparks further conversation because we haven't even had this event yet. And some of the people who are coming to this event are already saying, okay, when is the next one? So I think we're feeling this need and this void that exists here. So we're gonna have someone create a storyboard while people are talking, and we're gonna let people tell us where they want this to go next. It could be another event with young people. It could be an event with on a different side of town. But we're gonna continue this conversation for sure.
It is an important conversation to have because we want to make sure that people are safe in our community. And a big part of that is making sure that people understand and practice gun safety. James, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
More information about the event is on your screen now. It is March 7th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Prince Hall Masonic Temple on Milwaukee's North Side. We're back in just a minute.